Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isabella Pearson. I'm the Business Development Lead for the Hampshire Football Association. And today we've teamed up with our partners at Hey Girls once again for the last episode of the season. Hey Girls are an award-winning buy one, donate one social enterprise that creates plant-powered period products that fund the fight to end period poverty in the UK. So we are delighted to have them on board. In case you missed it, the first episode focused on the topic stigma, shame and period poverty, which is all available, by the way, on our YouTube channel. And our second episode was on period health and experiences. We will also post a link to these once again, just in case you missed them. So up now, we will kickstart the third and final episode, which focuses on period products and sport. But before we do, maybe please hand over to Hey Girls. We're starting with Kate Smith.
Hi everybody, nice to be here today. My name is Kate. I'm one of the co-founders and directors of Hey Girls. So I co-founded Hey Girls with my mum and my sister in 2018, and I also manage our donations. So we're making sure that all our Give One products go out to the people that need them, and I manage our education. So I run educational sessions, delivering education in schools, offices, workplaces, anywhere that they'll have me. Thank you.
Great. And then I'm Daisy Williams, and I'm the partnership and contracts manager for our corporate partnership. So I'm effectively the Hampshire FA account manager for Hey Girls.
Thank you very, very much indeed, both of you. And again, before we do actually start the questions, we absolutely would encourage as many partnerships as possible with Hey Girls to support your club, league and other setups. This is not a sales pitch, this is an essential part of what we do here. And obviously our corporate social responsibility, we have lots of female staff, female academy players, female students. So by all means, please do look to form a partnership with Hey Girls. They are fantastic in every way. So question number one, is it true that tracking our menstruation cycles can actually improve performances and reduce the risk of injuries such as ACL injuries?
Yeah, so I'll go first. That's all right with Daisy. Yes, it is, and it's really fascinating once you start looking into it. So changes in hormones will affect people in very, very different ways. So it's very difficult to have like this overarching thing of this is where you'll be better, you know, this is where you'll perform better, this is where your injuries will be more prominent. So sensitivity to hormones is very, very different, but we'll talk a little bit more about that a bit later. But there is some research that suggests halfway through your cycle, so the level of estrogen, which gives strength to the muscles and ligaments, drops quite rapidly. So that can potentially cause sudden weakness because of that. And some people who are very sensitive to hormones will notice that very almost like one day you will be and one day you won't be, you know, the difference. And also the end of your cycles, the level of relaxin will rise, which also means that the ligaments are softened. So those two times you may notice, if you are particularly sensitive to hormones, that you will be prone to more injuries, more sprains, and particular overall weakness.
And that's it. So sometimes people notice I think I am really sensitive to hormones, and it will be if you're going and I'm quite bad at this, but I know I'm supposed to, but you're supposed to really schedule your certain types of training around your month. And so it's when you're high in estrogen, that's when you're ovulating, isn't it? So that's when you are like really out there, that, you know, think about it, why we were ovulating, because we back in the day trying to mate. So we need to be out there, we need to be strong, we need to feel this is. And then as soon as you're not able to ovulate anymore, you don't need that. So you suddenly feel a lot weaker, and you do notice it. So if you're going and you're doing things like HIIT, so high intensity interval training, or like long things of cardio, strength training, it's like day and night. I personally can feel kind of between going one day like, oh, I'm feeling really strong and great, and then the next few days I'd feel horrendous and I can't lift as much as I could a few days before. And it can be really, really annoying, because you think you are basically making all these amazing kind of gains and progress, and then you go and you sit and and I think that maybe you think that you can, because maybe a few days later you could you could lift say or squat, I don't know, a 50 kg, and then the next day you can't. So because you think you can, you're more prone to injury, and that's an issue. It's so empowering when you track your cycles. But as I say, I do track my cycles, and I'm still bad at it because I just but I could do it a few days ago. But it's so important to kind of listen to your body at that stage.
For sure. And that's when tracking your cycle becomes so, and we talk about it a bit later as well. Track your cycle and track where you notice your weaknesses, and where, like Daisy was saying, it's better to change it up, change what you're doing, maybe do more stretching, do more swimming, do some yoga, Pilates, something that is a bit, less intense to get the best, the best out of yourself.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so I was just about to say that. So varying up your sports, varying up the types of exercises that you're actually doing in the week, to prevent injury, to prevent the chances of okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much indeed for that. It'd be interesting to see as well if coaches are also varying up their exercises in accordance with that as well, especially coaches of female teams as well. So that'd be very interesting. Okay, so the second question, is it safe to play football while experiencing PMS/PMDS or menstruating?
I really like this question because safe, I think, is a really interesting word. Yes, it is safe, when you've got PMS. And I just want to talk about the difference between PMS. So PMS is what I think it's between 90 to 99% of people who have a period get, and that's kind of relatively manageable the week before your period. I know I have fairly significant PMS, so I know that the week before my period, I'm going to be a bit grumpy, a bit grouchy. I have a husband and a kid, so I know that my maybe tolerance level isn't going to be so good that week, but I can manage that. And as soon as I get my bleed, I know that, okay, I can kind of go back to feeling a bit more like myself. And most people who have a period will have that. So that, and the difference between that and PMDD. So PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, and that's a significant mental health condition. And that's when we're talking about, it's like the mother of all PMS, and people with PMDD will have to go through a diagnosis. And examples of symptoms of PMDD will be, unfortunately, potentially suicidal thoughts, extreme anger, irritability, heart palpitations, depression, anxiety, insomnia, and there's quite a long list. And some people may have all of them, some people may have a few of those. So there's quite a big difference between those things. So we all know that sports release endorphins, exercise releases endorphins. So to manage symptoms like those sometimes is a really brilliant thing. But somebody with PMDD may not want to participate in a competitive sport because they may be very, very angry. And when I'm talking about, wanting to get into a bus stop and actually wanting that. So people with PMDD, and you have a PMDD diagnosis, maybe on some kind of antidepressants or medication, or potentially even contraception, to try and manage those symptoms. They may also be doing some kind of therapy and changes to their lives. So exercise, yes. Competitive sports, maybe have a little think about it. And also with PMDD, that's where I talk about these sensitivities to hormones, and that's what PMDD is. So it doesn't mean that you have massive amounts of testosterone, massive amounts of estrogen. It's a sensitivity to those hormones. So if somebody is really, really sensitive to hormones and they're noticing that their PMS is starting to impact their life, they may want to think about going to the doctors to explore having a diagnosis. So it's kind of like safe. Absolutely, yes, a great thing, especially for PMS. Like, get yourself, go for a run, get yourself doing, like, burning off some of that energy. But PMDD, you need to be, consider that if somebody's going to upset you, you may fly off the handle, maybe more than you would say 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think it's adding pressure to an already slightly pressurized situation. So just as Kate has just said there, competitive sports, imagine if you are experiencing that and having to do a really important football game.
Yeah,
it's going to be really difficult for you, and you're not going to feel your best, and having that awareness could slightly help. But also I'm just thinking in terms of coaches, you know, them having that awareness too would be amazing, because then not having to communicate all the time, you know, this is what I'm feeling like right now. You know, if you've got that awareness, that could be really handy for the players and the coaches, having to try it. Because also, apart from anything else, when you are in the midst of, say, PMS, and you kind of know what's going on, but you don't necessarily want to have to communicate it all the time. But often that can be really handy. So someone having awareness on that, or even your other teammates, could be a really, really handy, and empowering. Again, I'm going to go back to empowering, but for a team, that's a really great thing.
Yeah, definitely
encouraging that dialogue.
Yeah, and sorry, I should have said with coaches, absolutely. But also what's really important to remember is that PMDD, which is, you know, a mental health condition, is also very, very difficult to diagnose. So most people who have it won't have a diagnosis. So for those coaches, it's not going to be a case of somebody coming to you and being like, I've got PMDD, hello. It's going to be probably undiagnosed. So coaches may be able to see that there's times when people they're coaching who are like, whoa, she is really, you know, different today. That's what might, you know, if something is out of the ordinary on a regular basis.
So are there any kind of like awareness workshops, courses, or anything like that that the coaches or anyone that's looking after a team can go on to try and like raise awareness of this very thing, so that they, because like you said, a lot of them, if they're not being diagnosed, they won't necessarily know to then have that dialogue with their coaches. Is there anything out there for like to provide that awareness, I guess, for coaches?
It's not that I have come across. It's educating yourself, it's books, it's reading the research, it's you know, there's loads of podcasts, amazing podcasts about understanding hormones. There's lots of really great books about periods, and it is I haven't come across anything, and it's just like self-learning.
Self-learning, okay. I think that's great that we've highlighted this then on this podcast, because in all honesty, that there'll be people out there that wouldn't have known about this sort of information. So if we can highlight some of those links as well and the references, that would be
for sure
a huge support, absolutely massive. Thank you very much indeed. So the third question then is, which Hey Girls reusable period pants are best for high intensity sports training, match days, etc., and which are best for recuperation and low impact sports as well, recovery days?
Shall I go, okay, or would you like to go? So we have a few different types of pant styles, and some we basically, in terms of on our website, you can see them, it's on however many droplets of blood is it kind of represents how heavy a flow you go for. High intensity, so again, it kind of depends on your flow. So if you're having a really heavy day and you're running around and stuff, you want to go probably for our highest, which I think are our red cherries and our black cherry pants. So those are the ones for the highest flow, and they're the highest absorbency, and that's great. If you've got a semi low flow and you're at the beginning or the end of your period, all our pants are suitable because they are really super absorbent, and they're a great thing to wear. We also have some new a new product coming out, which is called My Period Short, and those are short, kind of, I guess, boxer shaped, and we've chosen to make these incredibly absorbent. So those are one of the higher ones. So if you're going and you've got quite a high flow, then those are a good product to go for. And those, we've had lots of feedback from people who don't identify as female, and for actually people who just prefer a short, that this would be a great style to have available. So it's really to increase accessibility to our reusable products, and also choice and style, because we're all about providing choice is really, really important for you. So in answer to your question, playing sport, depends on how heavy you are, really, but all our pants are super absorbent, but we've got some that are more than others. And then for rest, again, any of those, they're really comfy. I would say, actually, if we're talking about rest, that pants are really great, because a lot we've chosen to make a lot of our pants pretty high-waisted, so they're, some people have said they're like a hug. They are really, they hold you in, you feel really secure. I have never known anyone in the history of having a reusable pant to have leaked from one, which is really, that's a great stat.
Which is
brilliant
great,
for night time.
Yeah.
They're really fantastic. And also, if you're playing sport in the winter, and I know that your football season is, they're quite warm as well.
They are quite warm, cozy. Yeah,
they're cozy.
Yeah,
so that's a great
cozy.
thing to bear in mind too.
Warm pants tip.
Yeah,
I was just
exactly.
going to say, so you have the one pair throughout the day, through your training, and it will last you kind of, how many sort of hours would you?
Yeah,
Right,
12
okay.
hours, and then you could do with, changing them. Some people will want to change them more. I change mine more regularly, just at the beginning when my cycle is particularly heavy, and then you can probably wear, quite comfortably one pair overnight. I wouldn't suggest getting up in the night and changing them. As Daisy said, we wear them all the time and they don't leak, but just to kind of keep yourself feeling, really clean. The other thing that I just want to say, particularly in sports and particularly with young people, is that the majority, the biggest thing is about leaking, particularly with young people. It's they don't want to leak, which is completely understandable, which is sometimes why people don't want to participate in sports, because they're worried about leaking. There's that fear.
They're worried about it. Yeah.
And we should absolutely encourage doubling up on products. And when I say doubling up, I don't mean like putting 2 tampons in. I mean wearing a pair of pants as a backup and wearing a tampon, or wearing a cup and a pair of pants. It should be encouraged, particularly in sports. So to give yourself that extra security, or if you're doing something, you've got a really heavy flow and you're doing something really intense like football, then wear a cup and a pair of pants, and then you've got your shorts over the top, and then feel really like, I've got this. I'm going to be able to participate really well because I'm not worried about leaking.
Yeah, you don't have to think about your period. Until from when you leave home to when you're back, as long as it's in a 12-hour time frame. That's a really good point. Yeah, I completely agree.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Daisy and Kate, for that. And then that leads us on to question number 4. So lastly, in our discussions, we've talked about the fantastic campaign launched by Nike to harness the power of your menstrual cycle by syncing your training in line with the phases of one's menstrual cycle. So again, this is a bit like when you said about tracking and how it is quite important to track. And taken directly from Nike's site is this. With the help of Dr. Stacey Sims, a global expert on female athlete physiology, we've created Nike Sync, a new workout collection for people with periods, helping you train to the key phases of your menstrual cycle. So take day 1 of your period as the kickoff point to start syncing your training to your cycle and get the best out of your workouts. So please tell us your thoughts as well on that. And what do you think of the campaign? Do you encourage people to read up on it and to sort of follow the kind of guidelines for it?
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I've read it a long time ago when it first came out, and I refer people to it still. And it's that harnessing your period. 1 in 4 people don't understand their menstrual cycle, and that's not just kids. That's adults. That's all of us in that stat. So without that, of course, you're not going to feel in control. So, and I love that. The reason I like the night thing, because it's really like empowering. It's like taking charge of your menstrual cycle and potentially even using it to your advantage. And also, what's really important, and I think and I say this so much to young people as well, is listening to your body. And I think we've been told not to do that, and we have to be consistent. And it's like, we're not going to be consistent because our bodies are constantly changing, and everyone focuses on the bleed because that's the thing that physically happens. That's the thing you can see. That's the thing that hurts. Or I get ovulation pain, and some people also, get pain at different times. But actually thinking about, my body is doing loads of work the whole time. It's refreshing, it's rejuvenating, it's getting rid of what it needs to, and it's preparing your body for. So I think it's like I think it's really lovely to have that full cycle look and then to track, you know, how you're feeling along the way. So tracking isn't just for your bleed, because obviously it's incredibly important to track regular cycles, but tracking for how you feel before your period, how you feel during the other phases of your cycle. When do I feel particularly emotional? When do I feel, you know, that I'm having these kind of, you know, struggles with mental health and things like that. So that's why I think I love that so much. And because, I mean, using that as an advantage in sports is really turning on its heads from how we've taught that actually when you're, you know, in menstruation in the sporting world is something that's really taboo, and you know you shouldn't have a menstrual cycle, like, oh my god, push it away. Actually, no, encouraging that back into the conversation I think is really good.
Yeah. I completely agree, and I think because I know we're gonna link this, but there's also a really good bit in it here about nutrition, and I think they touch upon that, which is a great thing to think about, because you know you do sometimes just get those massive cravings for carbs during thing, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit better about that, because there's a mention about, you know, this is when you really should be loading up on carbs, or this is when you should be going for your kind of healthy fats and things like that. There's also a really good another podcast that I'm going to actually mention now, and it's done by the people who are doing Zoe, and there's a brilliant podcast that came out a few weeks ago that's about nutrition and what you should really be eating during your cycle as well. So we could maybe link that in as well, because I think that's a great thing to talk about, and I think we're only just starting to understand that. And you know, adding training and nutrition together, that's a really good, just as you say, we're harnessing our power. And I think that if you really can work that out, that it could be a really, really good thing for training and for footballers and coaches to use too.
I think we've come a really long way, I think, as well, like in this journey, because I remember being at school, you're just encouraged to just keep going, you know, keep exercising, keep taking part in sport, and that's all you're really encouraged to do. There is nothing else, but just keep pushing on. It's going to make it better if you keep exercising. The pain will go away. Don't pay attention to it. But there's so much more literature around. There's so much more education around this. We've come a really long way to making it, you know, manageable for a lot of us that are still experiencing, you know, menstruation. So yeah, I'm quite glad where we're heading, actually, because now we're starting to harness the times of the month where actually, and sorry, the time and the phase within your period where you can actually benefit from where you are in its position. And I know that the week beforehand I feel fatigue, and like an extreme fatigue. I'm very tired. I don't want to get out of bed at all. Day one, however, and I'm bounced back up again, and I feel like full of energy. And that's just only day one. I noticed that kind of difference, the dip and then the peak. So yeah, it's interesting, and everyone's very different. So yeah, that's it for today. Unless we've got anything else, Kate, Daisy, that we could mention that could actually benefit anyone that's watching this, that you can add at all?
I think just to reiterate that the tracking is a really great thing, and it really can help you understand yourself, but also help you with your training, as we've just mentioned. So that would be the main thing here, to cut the main takeaway. If you can track, just to get a little bit more understanding, is so
call to action.
Call to action. Track your cycle.
And there's loads of free tracking things, or you can even do it, you know, the old school way on a bit of paper, you know, on the calendar or whatever. You don't have to. I think tracking was always around fertility, and of course that is absolutely important in those spaces. But you don't have to be on the journey to try and have a baby to track your periods. That, you know, do it for all the different reasons that we've spoken about today. So yeah, everybody who has a period, in my mind, should track it. You should understand what's happening to your body, and also to look out for those abnormalities and things, and catch those, you know, early, and to get the help that you also may need. And that's okay to absolutely ask for help when you need it, even when it's linked to your menstrual cycle. So that's why it's so important.
That's brilliant. Thank you. No one size fits all, right? Everyone's very, very different. It's very important to understand those changes and be self-aware of your own body. Thank you very, very much indeed, Kate and Daisy and Hey Girls, for taking the time to speak to us today on our last kind of episode. If you'd like to find out more about Hey Girls, once again, you can purchase products and supplies. There is a discount. I'll make sure that the discount code is mentioned below when we come to publishing this. But we do have this partnership to also provide that small incentive as well for our clubs to stock up and be equipped for their own players. So thank you very much indeed, and look forward to potentially some more episodes for the new season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll come back whenever you'll have us.
We'll definitely be back.
Thank you. And if anyone would like to also put any suggestions as well forward for some episodes, you know, let us know, what would you like to find out that we could potentially cover with Hey Girls. More than happy to take your suggestions. Send them through to communications@hampshirefa.com and we'll discuss that with Hey Girls in due course. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.